What a joy to be with you here in the presence of God and to rejoice together in the wonderful promise of His return. Remember in the back of your bulletin when Aaron had read from Desire of Ages this quote, that the purpose of the communion was to remind and to proclaim what He had done for us till He comes. So it's a direct connection when we celebrate communion with the second coming of Jesus Christ and His return to earth. And we believe that is rather sooner than later, the way things are going in this world. Outside the church, inside the church as well. Everything is indicating that He will be coming soon. And I like the expression, He is even at the door.
Amen.
Friends, the title of our meditation or reflection today, The Heart of Communion. What is the heart of communion? I want to propose today that the heart of communion is exactly what Jesus did for the disciples on that Thursday evening there in Jerusalem. When everyone was expecting a servant who normally was hired and paid for. That was Judas's job, to take care of that and pay for that service, and to come and wash their feet. But for this occasion, nobody was there. At least the disciples started looking, okay, we're about to start. No washing today, apparently. How about you do it? No, how about you do it? And we know how it all went until Jesus surprised them all, taking His outer garment out, and then with the basin and with the towel, He began to wash every one of His disciples' feet. Friends, I want to propose to you, that is the heart of communion, service. It's His love, it's His character. Loving others means giving of ourselves for the benefit of someone else. What we choose to give, definitely it will be a reflection of how much we really love them. It's amazing. The gift speaks out how much we really love them. And ultimately, it's a reflect how much we love God. It doesn't stop there. Our sermon, our meditation today is about loving others. And if I just leave it right there, it will be very generic. And letting them know. How would the neighbors of around this building know that you and I love them? Is it just by saying here, we love them, but they never hear it. They never see it. So we wanted to walk and journey in that direction. Throughout this message today, friends, we will be looking into the importance of unconditional love. Isn't that the love has for you and for me? He's inviting us to sit at His feet and learn about that unconditional love. And most probably, you know of practical yet meaningful ways of expressing this love. For example, from a handshake. There's the casual handshake, and there's that handshake that you feel somebody is really interested and transmitting, the younger generation say, a vibe, right? And it's a vibe that they will know. They will know to express kind words intentionally, very purposefully, to take time to spend together in meaningful fellowship with them. So you see in our reflection this morning, we will look at how what we give to others can be a powerful expression of our love for them, and how they would get to know about that. I read a story recently about an incident in the life of Queen Mary. One day, while walking with some children, she went out, Queen Mary was caught in a sudden shower. It reminds me, Linda, after you had left, it just poured. It was like a flood. of rain this last Tuesday. Right here, water was not only coming in the ends, all over the edges of the building. You couldn't get out. I was trapped here. Literally, I couldn't get to my car. So she finds herself caught in a sudden shower, a lot of rain. Quickly taking shelter on a porch of a home, she knocked at the door and asked to borrow an umbrella. "I'll send it back tomorrow," she said. The queen had deliberately disguised her appearance by putting on a hat that partially covered her face and by wearing some very plain common clothing. The homeowner, reluctant to give a stranger her best umbrella, offered her a cast-off one she found somewhere there in the attic. One rib was broken, and there were several holes on that umbrella. This is the one that she gave. Apologizing, she turned it over to the monarch, whom she did not recognize in this occasion. The next day, she had another visitor. A man with gold braid on his uniform and an envelope in his hands that he extended to her. "The queen sent me with this letter," he said, "and also asked me to thank you personally. I'm supposed to thank you personally for the loan of your umbrella to your majesty." You can imagine the expression on the face of this lady. Stunned, the woman burst into tears. "Oh, what an opportunity I missed, that I did not give my very best," she cried. Friends, each one of us here today has had the same opportunity as the women of this story. We all have had that opportunity. Those of you who connected last night to Zoom, remember Elder Tony Robley telling two stories. The story of a movie called Norm, and then he spoke about his own experience with a friend from college that, because it was uncool to connect with him, he talked to him, but he did not intentionally give his very best to connect with him. Each one of us throughout our lives has had an occasion to be of a service to another individual. We all have had opportunities like that to give something of ourselves for the benefit of others. And what have we given? Have we given our best, or merely a cast-off that we could afford to part with? A weak effort made with an apology? Is that what has been our giving? Have we given everything or anything at all? Or does it even matter? Our goal today, friends, is that our love, your love, my love, will become a reflection of God's love in our relationship with those that are around us. Let's take just a minute then this morning and look again at just what kind of love God has for us. We're going to read a passage that's very known, very familiar. Actually, I believe if not all, the majority could just recite from your mind. Turn with me to the Gospel of John chapter 3 and the 16th verse there. Okay? You remember that. For God so loved the world that He do what? He gave. He gave His only, unique is the right word there instead of begotten. Begotten is a mistranslation. He gave His unicus is the Latin expression when the Bible was translated from Greek to Latin. For 900 years, there it was, the La Vulgata Latina, the Latin Vulgate. That was there until the translators in Europe started translating the Bible in English, and then Martin Luther to German, the common German that the people would speak on the street. He translated the Bible there. He gave his Unicus, his only unique son, that whoever believes in him should not perish but have everlasting life. You know, we read and quote this passage so often that I believe we overlook just what kind of love we're talking about here. The love of God there. But take a closer look. When you examine closer this passage, we notice something about God's love for the world. It moved him to action. Not just sitting in his throne and saying, oh, I just love him so much, and that was it. It moved him to action beyond words. Yes, not only that. Love in God's economy is more than sentimentalism, more than words, more than just sympathy that we might express. God's love was tangible. You could touch it, you could sense it. Actually, it took a form, your form, my form. It resulted in him doing something about the love he had for all of us. In fact, a more accurate rendering of the Greek text would be, this is how God loved the world, he gave. So it went beyond words. His love wasn't a mere feeling, but the key motive for him giving this great gift to mankind, to humanity. It resulted in him giving his one and only Son. So that anyone, no matter what their condition, what their social status, no matter what their background was, he was giving for all of them. Anyone at all could come and be forever changed. That was the goal of giving the loved person, Jesus Christ, that who would ever believe in him would receive that love that would change and transform their life. What's more, we are told that the action taken on the part of God was not just a last-minute thought. No, we know that it was not a half-hearted effort made on behalf of a rebellious people. No. Revelation 13 and verse 8 tells us that Jesus is the Lamb slain from the foundation. Even before the foundation of the world, Jesus had made that decision. The Son of God, in his love for people of this fallen world, had taken deliberate action to save you and to save me. When I reflect on that, when I consider that, friends, it just literally blows my mind. It's beyond my ability to fully encompass the whole meaning of that love. Even before we needed to be rescued, he already decided that he would do that for you and for me. He realized what the sacrifice would require, and he made a conscious decision, motivated indeed, driven by his deep love for each one of us. Think about it. How often do we think about it? I'm glad that at least when we have communion, and when was the last time we had communion? The board said, Pastor, we can do it. Let's do it next time you come. And we said, yes, why not? And I'm so glad you said yes to come to church today to have this opportunity to reflect on that supreme love. And so, as we contemplate this love of God, this love that manifested itself in the greatest gift we could ever receive, even the gift of his Son, Jesus Christ, we realize that if we are to love as God loved, it is not enough to smile and nod. It doesn't cut it. It's not enough to share a word of encouragement or just offer a prayer. It needs to go beyond that. No, these expressions of love have their time and place. Yes, we acknowledge that. but there comes a time when words and sympathy must give way to actions. And that's where we're going. I just pray that you will be moved to come tomorrow and shine for Jesus at 5 o'clock. And not only that, bring a friend, call a friend, tell them, hey, let's go eat some cornrows. They're sweet, like the sweetest around. Say something that will appeal to him or to her to come and then reflect that love of God, move it into action. A time when our hearts must move, not only our lips, but our hands as well need to get moving by God's Spirit working in our lives. Perhaps the greatest illustration of this is to be found in scriptures in the book of Matthew chapter 25. We know the story. I am supposed to ask you to read this morning from verse 31 to 46. And for the time's sake, it's when Jesus tells, actually 24 and 25, those two chapters in Matthew, describe what would take place before Christ's second coming. And Jesus began telling them about how he comes to this group of individuals and tells them, look, when I was hungry, when I was naked, when I was without a place to stay, you came and took care of me. And they are shocked and say, Lord, when did we see you do that? They were surprised that Jesus said, you did this for me. When did we see you? And then he addresses the other group with the same. When I was naked, and when I was hungry, and when I was in jail, when I was sick, nothing happened. But Lord, remember Matthew chapter 7. In your name we cast out demons. In your name we did this, and that. And Matthew chapter 7 verse 21 there describes, simply makes the point, I don't know you. I don't know you. And these are professing people following Jesus. For some reason, never made the transition from words to action. It didn't take place. As I read this parable, there are three major points that stand out to me. The first one is that what God is looking for is direct, personal involvement in service. It's very clear there. Notice the type of service he commands there in Matthew 25, starting in verse 31. And the first one, providing food for the hungry. No interpretation there. Drink for the thirsty, clothing for the naked, shelter for the homeless. Those are the actions that Jesus is, highlighting, putting in quotes there. Moreover, he commanded those who visited the sick and those in prison. Nowhere do I see in this list of commendations making a donation to ADRA. It's not there in that text. Or writing a check to a local charity. It's not there on that list. It goes even beyond that. Not only not writing a local charity a check, or throwing some change into the Salvation Army bucket there during Christmas. Nothing of that is mentioned there in that list. Nor do I see him commending those who merely offer prayer on behalf of the needy. I'm going to pray for them. I'm going to pray for those in Afghanistan. That's it. No, I am definitely not saying don't make your donations. I'm not saying don't offer prayers. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying, what the Word of God makes clear is that our service must also involve direct contact with those in need. And for some reason, like the Lord will hear in the last day, we will just make up all kinds of excuses. Like the other parable mentioned there, I just bought some new oxen, I gotta go try them. I bought a new car, I haven't tested it yet. And it can go to so many ways that we will find things that we think that will cut it and will get us off the hook when Jesus is calling us and to live and involve in that direct contact with those in need. A letter was once written to a Christian by a homeless person. Perhaps you've heard of this letter. It reads as follows: "Dear Christian, I was standing outside in the bitter cold the other day. You saw me without a coat. We had eye contact. You saw me without a coat, shivering in the cold, and you prayed that God will warm me up. I was hungry, and you reminded me that God provides our daily bread. You quoted the scriptures. I was looking for a place to stay, and you prayed that God will help me find a shelter. I appreciate your prayers, and I appreciate your words of encouragement, but I'm still cold. I'm still hungry. And I'm still without a place to stay." Someone I know once made the statement that God is not concerned just with how bruised, how much calluses you grow on your knees from your prayer times, but also how bruised your feet are from walking after reaching out to people and serving them in their needs. The love of God is a love that calls to action, a direct, personal, hands-on experience in meeting the need of others. We will never proclaim the gospel more powerfully when that precedes any of our evangelistic efforts to reach anyone else, because they would have seen Jesus in you going out there. The second point we can glean from the parable is this: love-motivated service isn't concerned about being recognized for the service that has been rendered. You see, notice the responses of the sheep in verse 38 and 39. "Lord, when did we see you? When did we see you in those conditions? Yeah. When did we do these things? When did we help you?" Actually, it's speaking to the first group. "Lord, when did we see you in those conditions?" They are literally shocked that they have done anything of value in God's eyes, and are shocked even more so that they should be rewarded for it. Because at the end he tells them, "Come into my Father's kingdom." To those who did that service, "Welcome, beloved." The last thing on their mind was what was in for them. That was the last thing that ever crossed their minds. Contrast this with those described, like I mentioned earlier in Matthew 7, 21 and 22. And they just began listing before Jesus all the great works they have done in His name. Yes. Verse 23, "I never knew you. Depart from me, you workers of iniquity." Friends, let me make this very clear. We can do all the right things, have all the group of truth contained in the Bible, know all the prophecies in Daniel and Revelation, keep all the right commandments, do this and do that, serve here and serve there. We can do everything that we are expected to do. But if we are doing it for the recognition, either before men or before God, if we think that doing this or doing that will guarantee us a place in eternity, then we are going to be sorely disappointed when that day comes. Yes, God does expect His followers to obey. Yes, He does expect His followers to serve others, but never, ever, ever is our service or our obedience about earning something in return for what we have done. In fact, the very term gift is the point. It's giving, free, expecting nothing in return. The word gift comes from the Greek word charis, from where charisma comes from, which literally means grace. That's gift. And what is grace? We know, undeserved, unmerited gift of God's favor. We're halfway in our message this morning, but I'm going to stop right here because I think we got the point. I think we understood where the Lord is leading us this morning. You see, if it could be earned, it would not be a gift, but a payment. And that's not how His grace comes to us. To use a modern phrase, it would be considered an exchange of services, and salvation will be reduced to a cheap vending machine price. We can't go there. We can't go there. God is speaking to me, speaking to all of us today. It's sad, but there are many today who believe that by being a good person and helping others is enough to get anyone into God's eternal kingdom. Even among Christians, there is this mentality that obedience to God's law is an automatic ticket to eternity. Friends, I close with the story of Billy. Billy was 14 years old, and in his town, he wanted to share with the community his passion, his love for Jesus, what He had done for him. He had understood salvation, and he was so excited he could not keep it to himself. So one day, as he's walking down the street, he notices this bar, and there's this man who's about to walk into that bar, and he crosses the street, runs to him, grabs him by the hand and says, "Sir, don't go in there." "Why not?" the man says. "That's not the place where Jesus would want you to be." And he says, "What?" And he pushed them, and he fell into the ground, and he just went in. Billy woke up, and he was in tears because he realized he had miserably failed in his first attempt to do a service to win someone for Jesus. So he was feeling really, really bad, but he determined, nothing, I'm not going to let this stop me from witnessing for Jesus. I'm going to go on forward. So, years later, Billy became an evangelist. And reading the paper, he noticed there was an announcement saying that there was going to be the inauguration of a community center in the town where he was living. And so he decided, I want to go to that meeting. I want to meet this person who has determined to erect, to build a community center in the poorest section of our town. And the word is, he's doing this in different other locations as well. So he went there and he stood in the back. He was sitting in the back looking to see who this person was. And this person, when he came to the front of the microphone, he started speaking, and he said, "You might be wondering why I have done or provided the means to build this community center here in this location of our town." Well, the story goes back about 15 years back, when one day I was trying to make a name for myself. I had lots of money, and I started drinking, and just enjoying the pleasures of life. And I was about to go into a bar, and a young teen came to me. He grabbed me by the hand, and he said, "Sir, don't go in there." And I said, "Why?" And he said, "That's not the place where Jesus would want you to be." I just pushed him to the ground and went inside. And when I was inside and about to take my first drink, I realized I was empty. I was empty. Why am I doing this? Why has it become more like a habit and addiction in me? He was empty, and he realized if parents could raise a child like that young man that was just holding me outside of the door of this place, and give him such values that he would come to me and share this with me, there's got to be something about that person he's talking about that is worth following. And I became a Christian. And from there on, part of my wealth I have dedicated to build centers like this in different places. Can you imagine Billy back there, looking back, what he thought was a total failure in God's eyes, in God's kingdom, it turned out, and this is what God does. With the smallest of your efforts, God will turn it around and make it the greatest blessing if we trust Him. If it's done in the right spirit, in the mind of Christ. Friends, the heart of communion is that Jesus is describing Himself. There was the Paschal lamb that Israel was instructed to sacrifice at Passover. But now the Lamb of God is here. Not only just to die, but He performs service on behalf of all humanity. That includes you and me, and made it possible for us to be saved in His eternal kingdom. And we proclaim today, when we come to participate, He's coming again. And He's inviting us, go, make that transition from words to action. And may others see, wherever you live, whatever you do, that He lives in you. That He is the fuel. He is the motivation of your words, your kind words, your looks that express His love, your action with your hands and your feet taking you to places and to people that are in need, and they will know that Jesus lives in you. May He bless us, making that miracle right now, right here today, is His call, His appeal, beginning with me, beginning with you. We will now separate